What's up, guys? It's the one and only VocaRose, and today I'm trying something very new. Today I'm going to be doing a manga review of Eden Zero because I really started to have this odd interest in Eden Zero, especially since I heard that they were getting an anime, and I kind of liked some of the things I saw, which wasn't anything like in the manga. I just kind of liked the designs of characters and stuff. So I took it out of my way since I was gonna do this anyway. Why not do it with all of you and then catch up with you guys? So what I'm gonna do today is 5 chapters. Now, let it be clear, I've never done a review in my life, so this is a learning experience. Make sure to critique me so I can always improve. So I'm gonna let you guys know ahead of time, spoiler alert for those of you who haven't read Eden Zero. Make sure to do that. I kind of written everything down like in little highlight points, but it's kind of long, especially for chapter 1, since chapter 1 is kind of long. So bear with me, guys. I kind of really will be talking about the things that happen before I give my personal thoughts on everything. So without further ado, let's get into it. Chapter 1 starts with people basically observing what appears to be shooting stars, and this kid with black hair gets excited, but immediately is told that the shooting star is actually what is called a dragon. Basically, the whole feeling at the beginning is just like friendshipy, as the robots keep telling the kid to make friends, make plenty of friends, and make sure to understand that everyone has a heart. Everything changes to a female character named Rebecca and a cat who find a place known as Granbell Kingdom. Rebecca gets excited as she sees it as a chance to get a lot of views and is quickly greeted by robots who call the two customers. Turns out that Rebecca is one of the first customers the robots have had in the last 100 years. The robots grow excited, asking Rebecca what she wishes for and telling her that Granbell Kingdom is a place where dreams come true. Rebecca immediately says she wants 1 million subscribers, which is kind of like that YouTube mentality of people today. The cat, which, spoilers to his name, he's known as Happy, and Rebecca go out and encounter this huge ass cat beast, but it legit gets crushed. Like, it just gets pummeled down by some guy with super menacing glare. Turns out the guy's cool and confused at first, not sure what Rebecca is. Rebecca's confused as she thought no other humans were on Granbell Kingdom, which the boy confirms that he is in fact the only boy, like the only human on Granbell Kingdom. Again, the boy is acting very odd towards Happy and Rebecca, kind of creepy. Realizing that Rebecca is a girl, kind of gropes her, looks under her skirt, and is like, oh wow, Happy's a cat. The boy asks Rebecca to be friends, but out of sheer probably freaking out, Rebecca punches the crap out of him. Rebecca tries to run away from the guy, but he just keeps up with every time. Like, he just keeps up with her every time until she returns to the robots of Granbell Kingdom, who tell her that the boy's name is Shiki, and the robots in Granbell are actually his good friends, and that he helps repair the robots. And all of this kind of just comforts Rebecca as she's now learning that Shiki is not as bad as a person as she thinks. So it gets to Rebecca now getting nice clothing from the robots and is being fed well. But from outside the window, you can see another robot who kind of is just lurking. He doesn't have this good nature to him. And he reports back to this person he calls King, and he tells them that there's this girl, but the King's already aware of it, and he says that it's almost time. We go back to Rebecca and the group. The robots tell Rebecca that Shiki was found by someone known as the Demon King or Devil King 10 years ago, and that the Devil King treated Shiki like his own grandson. Rebecca goes to sleep after cutting Shiki's hair, but the robots are still staring as if they're up to something. Shiki wakes up the next morning and no one is around. But what he does realize is that it's kind of noisy outside. We go back to Rebecca, who is now just waking up, but soon realizes that both her and Happy are tied up. The big king robot from before, that was basically that guy, the stalker robot's ally basically, is in front of them, standing in front of them, and Rebecca is starting to demand that she gets free. Shiki arrives on the scene and explains that Rebecca is innocent, which the king is already aware of. The king explains that the robots have waited 100 years for a sail-worthy ship to arrive. When Shiki tells the king to let her go, the king tells Shiki that he plans to kill Rebecca in order to leave their world. Shiki first thinks that they have been infected with a virus, but the king says that they are infected with a virus that gives them self-awareness. Shiki tries to talk certain robots out of this whole situation, but they continue to push him by saying that humans are the enemy. When Shiki says he'll try to fix the robots, the king tells Shiki that he was never able to actually fix them, and that the Grand Bell was simply using its auto repair system to fix everyone. He also says that everyone was simply following their designated roles, like the waiter, the knight, the dancer, and that Shiki's pretend role was to be the repairman. When Shiki asks if they were basically ever friends, the king confirms that because Shiki is human and that they are machines, they never can be friends. Not only that, the king undresses himself to reveal that what Rebecca calls a combat-ready mode. The king tells that humans had left the machines actually long time ago, and that the only reason that the robots didn't kill Shiki long ago was because the Devil King brought Shiki to the robots. The robots, excluding the king, all start to beat up Shiki to the point where Rebecca starts shouting things like, "He said everyone was his friend. Being friends goes beyond being human." The king tells Rebecca to silence herself or else death will, come sooner to her. But she's not. She's kind of scared, but she's like, "Do it. I want to see you do it. I'd like to see you try it." But just then, Shiki breaks free from the robots and starts to fight the king with what Happy calls ether gear. Fight doesn't last too long, as Shiki kind of just dodges the king's attacks and before punching him so hard that the very earth shatters. Rebecca is about to fall into the crumbling earth, but Shiki saves her again with ether gear, but this time of gravity to keep them both in the air. Rebecca tells Shiki the location of the ship and immediately starts zooming in that direction thanks to that ether gear gravity. But they're really not too far after, followed by the robots. Once arriving at the ship, Shiki tells Rebecca that he's staying, but Rebecca basically is like, no. And she drags him on board with her, saying that friends don't abandon each other, basically. Once in the ship, Shiki grows super interested, and Rebecca welcomes him to what is known as the soccer combos once they leave Grand Bell Kingdom. The group also sees something zoom through the sky, which Rebecca tells that is a dragon. And that kind of goes back to what happens at the beginning of the chapter, showing that the kid from the beginning of the chapter was actually a young Shiki. As they take off, the biggest twist happens. As it turns out, the king and the robots never wanted to kill Shiki to begin with, and they really didn't want to kill Rebecca for her ship. But the real story behind everything is that the Devil King knew the robots have batteries and that they would die out eventually, and they did not want Shiki to be alone. They didn't want him to feel alone, and that they'd rather him go off into space so that way he can possibly make friends out there instead of sitting here with a bunch of robots that won't be living that much longer. So throughout the whole thing, the robots really did care for Shiki, even though they were like, humans are the enemy, we don't care for humans, humans and robots can never be friends. And that kind of has a double meaning now, saying like, yeah, we can never be friends because we'll be gone soon. So that kind of was like, ow. But the last thing we really see of Grand Bell Kingdom is that all functions for all the robots cease, and that's basically saying they're all gone. Going back to the ship, Shiki is starting to cry and shouting his appreciation to his fans on Grand Bell and that he would never forget them. The chapter concludes with Shiki saying that on this day, he has departed from his home star and is taking his first step into his space journey where he plans to make plenty of friends. So as you can tell, that this whole chapter was basically like friendship united, basically never abandoning your friends and what friends really means to a person. And you know, for a first chapter, I really think this one was amazing. I loved everything of it. And to be honest, the whole stuff with the robots really were able to activate my emotions even in that little time. How they were friendly and how they wanted to help Rebecca and how they were accordingly good friends with Shiki, to where they said they were never his friend, they never liked him, and how they were just like hating humans, only to see that they did that only so Shiki could basically push himself to that point to where he can leave the planet, so he cannot have to suffer of being alone when they all go. That was tough love they did. It was fucked up, but it was tough love, and at the end of the day, they're gone now. And they did what they felt was the only way they could actually get rid of him, so that way he wouldn't be hurt when they all basically just ceased functions. So the first chapter, again, was really on never really abandoning your friends, knowing how much your friends mean to you, showing how much you're willing to go for your friends and how you should treat them. And I really loved every ounce of it. So now we're gonna go into chapter 2. Chapter 2 starts with the dragon we saw from chapter 1 talking to this huge female creature in space, telling her that Shiki has departed. The woman slightly hints at what Shiki can do by saying like he could either become this hero of legend or a king of a demon who will bring mass destruction and stuff. So already saying like Shiki is a big deal. But we cut back to Shiki scrolling through some virtual stuff, which Rebecca tells him that he is on B Cube. She tells him that the cube he is holding allows a person to make posts and watch videos on the site, and that people who make content are called B-Cubers. So basically this is all like YouTube and YouTubers making content. A B-Cuber gets paid by making interesting videos going to different stars in the Sakura cosmos. The group make their way to Blue Garden, which is actually Rebecca's home planet, which is also called the Star of Adventurers. Upon their arrival of Blue Garden, Shiki notices that the buildings are larger than he is used to, and that there are a lot of humans. Shiki's immediate goal is to befriend all of them. But Rebecca lets him know that not all humans on Blue Garden are good, and people generally don't care for one another like he would expect. Things kind of seem to be relaxing until a guy suddenly captures Happy in a pod-looking object with the intent of selling him for a high price due to Happy coming from the star Exit, I believe it's called. The thief runs off, and Shiki immediately chases after him before we go into a flashback. The flashback shows a young Rebecca and a young Happy when they first encounter each other. Rebecca asking Happy if he is all alone. When Happy tells her that he is indeed all alone, she goes on to tell him that she is too all alone. We go back to Shiki chasing down the thief while also noticing people and talking about how their appearances, for example, like how he sees this old man and he says he kind of looks like he'd be a grandpa, and he sees a woman and he's considering her huge. He then confirms that the thief is indeed a bad guy before using a move he calls Gravitas to get the thief off of his motorbike. We pan back to Rebecca for a split second before returning to a flashback with the young Rebecca now giving Happy his name, and the reason behind his name, which is finally because he made Rebecca happy by becoming her friend. Finally, Rebecca regroups with Shiki, who is standing up to the thieves, including their boss. And the next flashback takes place with Rebecca and Happy kind of just enjoying their time together. Before Rebecca asks Happy, why was he alone? Why were you alone when I met you? Happy replies that he was probably just thrown away before asking Rebecca, why were you alone? Sadly, Rebecca says that she was most likely thrown away too, but she's happy because she isn't alone anymore due to having Happy. Shiki, once again using his ether gear in his arm, starts to attack the group of thieves during this encounter. The original thief accidentally drops the tube Happy was in, effectively freeing him and Happy, and immediately reunites with Rebecca, but bam, another flashback. This time, the flashback shows a crashed vehicle, and turns out a drunk driver had driven off the road, almost hitting Rebecca, but actually hitting the young Happy instead. Rebecca begs God, begs the God of that world to bring Happy back to her before we return to the current events, seeing Rebecca hugging Happy, and now turns out Happy was a robot. And not only that, he turned into a pair of guns that has ether bullets. Rebecca literally destroys the entire group of thieves right after that and confirms that due to the bullets being ether bullets, the thieves won't die even if they are shot. Last flashback of the chapter happens, showing that after the incident with Happy getting into that car accident, Happy had to be turned into a robot in order to stay alive. Sadly, he really kind of just thought, now that I'm a robot, Rebecca won't want me around. She'll fear me and she'll no longer want me. But Rebecca actually does still want him. Happy is kind of confused by it all, but Rebecca tells him, no matter what, Happy is happy. And that's it. Shiki notices that these two are really close. Like, as the flashback ends, Shiki looks on at them both and sees how happy they are together, no pun intended, and he can't help but smile himself. Not too long after, the three arrive at the Adventurers Guild, which is known as the Meteor Torch. The chapter ends with us once again going into space, but on a different ship, as a soldier is calling to his princess to alert her that Shiki has left Granbell and is now on Blue Garden, only for the princess, who is named Elsie Crimson, to say that is now their destined location. Now, this chapter is another chapter that kind of just touched my emotions, especially like all the flashbacks showing how Rebecca and Happy came together. And I really enjoyed it. Gave me that information like, yo, they weren't just some group, like they weren't just two people that were like, oh, hi, I'm Happy, hi, I'm Rebecca. No, they actually met when they were really young, and they basically were just alone and they had no one. Neither of them had anyone to be with them, and they ended up saying, hey, let's just be together. Rebecca ended up naming him Happy because she became happy that Happy became her friend. And it was a really sad turn to see Happy, get hit by the vehicle as he did, but it showed no matter what, Happy and Rebecca can't be broken up, well, or at least that easy, because like she said, Happy is happy no matter what he is. So basically she's like, you're my friend no matter what you are. You're valued to me. And so basically this was another chapter of friendship, and throughout all of this, it's not only doing that, it's like showing now, even now, Rebecca is going out of her way for Happy. When he's getting kidnapped, she's struggling, she's out of breath, she now has Happy guns. And with that, they're powerful together in more ways than one. So that basically is my take on chapter 2, which I'd say chapter 2 was another great chapter. I loved it, and I'm really looking forward to getting into chapter 3, which we're actually about to do right now. Chapter 3 starts off with the group now inside the Meteor Torch, and once again Shiki seeing all these humans, his heart is starting to race like a different breed. But the crew is soon greeted by a girl who knows Rebecca, named Clarice Leia, I think her name. Forgive me if I mess it up, guys. Rebecca asks that Clarice registers Shiki as an adventurer and also alerts her that Shiki has no papers. Clarice is like, don't worry about it, because remember, you didn't have papers either. While Shiki is basically on this human touch frenzy again. Once Rebecca pulls Shiki away from everything he's doing, Shiki kind of just sees a hologram of this large woman, and it's actually the large woman we saw at the beginning of chapter 2, with Rebecca now telling us that that woman is actually known as Mother, and that she is bigger than any star in space, actually. Rebecca also tells us that Mother was discovered by an adventurer who went beyond the sacred cosmos, and ever since then, adventurers worshipped her as a goddess of space, only for Shiki to say that he actually possibly met her before. The entire guild begins to laugh at him and make jokes about it, like, how could you have met her? This is not possible. And it only gets fueled because Shiki thinks that the mockery is because the guild wants to be his friend. But that just makes things get way worse as the laughing continues. Rebecca is blushing from embarrassment. But everything kind of comes to an end as La Villa Christie, a money-hungry, famous B-cuber who begins to insult Happy and Rebecca, calling Rebecca's content uninteresting and asking Rebecca if she's considering retiring. She kind of just changes everything because now she's asking for money from people and like for autographs and stuff. It's kind of like she wants money for everything. Once La Villa makes Rebecca cry, however, Shiki grabs her hand, and the funniest thing is La Villa thinks, oh, do you want a handshake? Because that's 10,000 gold or G. And instead, Shiki makes her float with the ether gear and is like, you made my friend cry. But Rebecca has to pull Shiki away, causing La Villa to just drop on her face. And instead of feeling hatred, instead of feeling anger or embarrassment, she concludes that now she must have Shiki in her next B-Cube video. We cut back to Shiki, Happy, and Rebecca now in a diner talking about the guild. Rebecca tells Shiki that the guild isn't just friendly and stuff towards each other, that they just kind of are there to look for work and they're not there really, again, to get along. Shiki is disappointed as he thought that the guild would be more like a family, which Rebecca makes a remark saying that's kind of like a manga. Not too long after that, Shiki gets his adventure card finished with his name on it being Shiki Granbell. Shiki likes it and calls that his actual name now, especially since he never had a last name before this, I'm assuming. His card shows him that he's an E-class adventurer, which turns out Rebecca and Happy are also E-class adventurers, and Happy lets it known that the reason they are still E-class adventurers is because they've been spending a lot of time playing video games, I guess, rather than doing other things they need to. Once Shiki sees someone watching one of La Villa's videos, Rebecca states that she is sure La Villa puts a lot of effort in her videos, and Rebecca even says that they're really interesting. So that's kind of saying something right there, but Shiki gets an idea that the group should go out and meet Mother for a video. Rebecca and Happy get excited until Happy reminds Rebecca that their ship can't really go outside of the Sakura Cosmos, but Rebecca already has a plan as she decides why not call the doctor that fixed up Happy, but for some reason he doesn't answer the phone. Rebecca decides that maybe it's better to go pay him a visit in person. Right as they leave though, Elsie arrives on Blue Garden along with her space pirates encountering Clarice and showing her a picture of Shiki asking if she's seen him. Clarice basically avoids answering, but a member of the Meteor Torch tells Elsie that Shiki, along with Rebecca and Happy, are on their way to Planet River. The chapter ends with Elsie confirming that the star Planet River has already died. So that one's kind of a big confusing thing, especially with all of this stuff. I'm kind of more interested in seeing more, like, I want to know more about the Mother character and why La Villa is the way she is, especially since she's so big. Is it because, you know, popularity got her stuck up? And it's, with this chapter, I'm kind of just happy that we are getting introduced to more characters. We got to see what the Meteor Torch is like. We got, not everyone in the world is friendly, which we basically saw with Granbell. But turns out they were also really friendly after all. But what kind of confuses me is at the end where they're like, they went to Planet River only for Elsie to say that that planet or that star is already dead. So what happened to that star? What's gonna happen when Rebecca, Happy, and Shiki get there? Are they gonna just see that and head back? Like, how's that gonna affect Rebecca and Happy, especially since the doctor is said to be there? Are they gonna just not feel it? Or is it that Planet River is actually where they plan to go to see Mother? A lot of things are kind of just building up with this chapter. So let's just get into the next one to see what exactly happens. Chapter 4 starts with Rebecca showing Shiki the Aqua Wing guest room while they make their way to Planet River, or, you know, wherever they're actually headed. Shiki, however, grows curious about the ship, but Rebecca lets him know that the ship can move on its own, basically autopilot, as long as they have that said destination. Shiki tries to pilot the ship, which Rebecca allows since she plans to get footage from it for views for B-Cube, but all Shiki ends up doing is crashing the ship into planet Norma. Rebecca notes that the weather on Norma is pretty weird, and upon further inspection, the group looks up to see things known as Earth ether crystals. Rebecca also notes that planet Norma is abundant in Earth ether, and that it crystallizes and crashes down onto the planet. Even though Shiki has ether gear, he doesn't know exactly what ether is. Happy goes on to explain that ether is the source of power, and that it is within humans, the atmosphere, and even machines. And to sum it up for Shiki, Happy calls ether magic. Rebecca uses the example of the Happy Blasters, which were the guns she used to fight off the thieves, and its ether bullets, and further goes on to say that it isn't hard to use due to everyone having it. But she also points out ether gear is different as it changes the flow of ether in the body, similar to the way a machine can. As the group continues to explore Norma, Shiki once again gets excited to see people. However, in Norma, civilization has gone underground. Because Shiki at first was wondering, how do they live here? How's it? But then basically Rebecca shows him everybody's underground. Eventually, Rebecca, Happy, and Shiki find Professor Wise's home and sees that it's pretty much empty and that he hasn't seen any of Rebecca or Happy's ether emails. The crew remain in the house for a bit and are greeted with a gun being pointed at them by a young man who actually turns out to be Wise Steiner, aka Professor Wise. But Wise does not recognize Rebecca or Happy. Shiki goes on to note that Professor actually is younger than he thought, but by the expression on everyone's face, it's clear that Rebecca and Happy aren't sure that this man is actually the professor. The chapter concludes going 20,000 years into the future with two people, I don't know if they're I don't know. And one of them finds two human corpses, one being a male and the other a female. One of the people picks up a cube that looks like a B-Cuber's cube, and on it says Eden 0. This chapter was again kind of confusing, but at the beginning it was kind of just like, them going on their way to find their professor, which turns out his name is Professor Wise. Now, it is kind of weird that suddenly they don't recognize him, so possibly this guy isn't even Professor Wise and is just some guy who has the same name, but that's kind of odd that his name is very similar. And the thing is, Rebecca even says his full name, which is Wise Steiner, and that is actually this young guy's name. So the fact that he's a young guy, it could mean a lot of weird things, like maybe he aged backwards, or he got his memory taken and something happened to him. Something with ether could have happened for all we know. All we can do really is read on, but I really love that they explain to us what ether is. But another thing I'm really confused about, why'd we go 20,000 years into the future? Who were the bodies? Why did we go 20,000 years into the future? And it's like my mind instantly thinks, did these two people just find Shiki and Rebecca? But why didn't they find Happy? Well, Happy's a machine, but wouldn't Happy still be with Rebecca? It's all kind of weird. So going into chapter 5, we have stuff to look for now. Chapter 5 starts with this girl named Zhao Mei telling us that we will learn about her more someday. And that for the time being, just consider her the narrator to the story and not to read too much into what we saw 20,000 years into the future, as time doesn't really matter much. And okay. We then go back to the man known as Wise pointing a gun at the group, asking what is it that they want, only for Rebecca to respond by saying that they want to see Professor Wise. The young man Wise concludes that Rebecca and the crew work for someone named Sabir, I don't know how to say his name, and gives the crew one chance to leave, but Shiki warns everyone that someone is above them, and not too long after that, someone begins to attack the crew, but Shiki quickly deals with the situation. The young Wise, however, takes this chance to leave while Shiki holds onto the attacker, who tells the group to alert Wise that betraying Sabir always comes with a consequence, as he always makes them pay. But this threat only causes Shiki to laugh from amusement. Once again, the group are chowing down on food, recapping everything, when Rebecca shows Shiki a picture of the professor, Wise. Shiki points out looks similar to the young Wise. Shiki and Happy come to accept that possibly Wise gained some sort of age-reversing drug that somehow took his memories. Rebecca is still kind of thinking, though. She's uncomfortable about the whole situation. Rebecca knows that she can no longer connect to the net, and Happy points out that the planet always had a great network. A news report pops up and begins to talk about an adventurers guild that the group is actually in. However, they are talking as if it was new. This sends Rebecca into shock, as the guild is actually 50 years old. We then cut to a flashback to a young Rebecca and Happy along with the actual Professor Wise. Rebecca tells the professor that she wants him to come live in Blue Garden, but Wise refuses. She then offers to live in Norma, but again, Wise says no, stating that the planet is dying and that it is too fragile to be a home for young people. As we cut back to the current time period, we see Rebecca storm out of the diner and investigate outside. She even begins to see old model cars and outdated town machines. Upon all of this, she comes to this horrifying conclusion that somehow they managed to end up in Norma 50 years in the past. Rebecca asks Happy the year, and Happy responds that it is X492, I believe. Rebecca then comes to the realization that the man they encountered was indeed a younger version of Professor Wise. The group struggles trying to figure out what to do, but Rebecca is quick to decide now is the time that we should stream. But Happy reminds her that there is no network. Not too long after, a large machine stands before the group. Turns out the machine is Sabir, the person Wise had betrayed, and according to Sabir, Wise had stolen his money. And because of Rebecca and the gang's association with him, they are just as guilty, and basically, this shocks the hell out of them. The chapter ends with the young Professor Wise holding on to something and saying that he would not give it to anyone, and he'd never allow Sabir to have it. And once again, I gotta say, this chapter was another weird one, as everything kind of just started with Zhao Mei just saying, you know, everything you kind of just saw at the ending of the last chapter, just kind of just throw that away, because time doesn't mean much. So with that, I was kind of just like, what? But whatever, you know, because I'm kind of trying to just get back into seeing what's going on with Wise, but I really wanted to know what was going on with that 20,000, but whatever. Then we get to her saying that for now, just consider her the narrator, but we will figure out in due time. So that kind of just built my curiosity as who is Zhao Mei, and are we gonna like see her throughout the series? Like, is she gonna pop up to our characters, or what's gonna happen? I'm also kind of interested in how the group ended up locking themselves 50 years into the past of Norma, and also like, what is Planet River to Planet Norma? Was that just some type of ruse to get Elsie off their trail? What was the whole thing behind that? And what is this goal behind Professor Wise stealing from Sabir, who now seems to have this really strong power or whatever? He's really someone not to be messed with, according to all of this. So what was his intentions, and what really is his goal? We're gonna find all that out eventually, but that'll do it for this series of reviews. I hope you enjoyed it, and guys, remember, this was my first time ever doing reviews, and I really want to improve on it. Probably gonna do 5 chapters, you know, a video, and I'm gonna learn as I go. So if you enjoy Eden Zero, make sure to like and subscribe. If you enjoy what I did today, make sure to like and subscribe, and make sure to hit that bell icon if you're ready for more from me about Eden Zero as we catch up, and then we begin to be on time with the stuff. But Until all of then, guys, see you all. Let's try something new. See you all in the Sakura Cosmos.